Part 24. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 231. Chapter 231 Who Can Do It? Xianxia glanced at the head of the Long family and the elders and said, I have opened the box, and you have all seen it. I am the only one who can accept the method of inheriting the soul control technique. I can tell you clearly that any of you can. It's impossible to practice the soul control technique. The hopeful eyes dimmed one by one, and they all felt that now Xianxia had inherited the practice. No matter what she said, it was not that they couldn't practice, but that she was unwilling to tell them how to practice. Even if they knew how to control the soul, they would not be able to steal the technique from her consciousness. You must be thinking that I'm hiding my secrets and don't want to tell you how to practice, right? Xianxia said clearly. Everyone's expressions were a bit unnatural. After all, it was very embarrassing for a little girl to directly reveal their selfish intentions. You don't have to feel embarrassed. If it were me, I would think the same way. Have you never thought that there are many talented descendants of the Long family for generations? Why is there no one who can open this box? Xianxia asked. Road. Everyone looked at each other in confusion, and finally the head of the Long family said, Isn't it because the soul control talent is not strong enough? Xianxia shook her head. Strong talent is only one of them. There is another condition that you have ignored. What conditions did we ignore? The head of the Long family asked next. Others are also curious. After all, opening this box is the desire of the Long family passed down from generation to generation. The skills inside are said to allow the Long family to reach the pinnacle of power. The Long family tried to open the box at the wrong time, which means the method was wrong. Xianxia sighed. She felt that the Long family would regret it if she told the truth, but she had to tell the truth. Wrong way? How is it possible? Didn't you open the box this way? As for the time, the descendants of the Long family all tried it when they were teenagers, just like you. The head of the Long family asked puzzledly. I'm not talking about the way to open the box, but when the Long family will open the box, Xianxia explained. After hearing her words, everyone became more confused. They didn't understand what she meant by when the Long family should open the box. The great elder understood something at this time and felt very emotional, but he also knew that the matter was irreversible. There were no words, waiting for Xianxia to explain clearly to them. This box does contain the inheritance of advanced soul-controlling techniques, but it is completely different from the soul-controlling techniques learned by the Long family. If you want to practice this technique, you must forget all the techniques you have learned before. Which of you can do it? Arrived, Xianxia's loud words made everyone stunned. After a while, the head of the Long family finally said, You mean, the descendants of the Long family who have awakened the talent of soul control should try to open this box before they have officially practiced the Long family's soul control technique? Yes, there are 3 conditions for opening this box. First, awaken the soul control talent. Second, the soul control talent must be very strong. Only with strong soul control talent can you have enough soul control power to be absorbed by the box. You guys, I have seen with my own eyes how much soul controlling power I have absorbed. Thirdly, I have not learned any other soul controlling techniques. Xianxia told them exactly the conditions for opening the box. These 3 conditions are indispensable, and by accident, I happened to meet these 3 conditions, so I opened the box and got the inheritance of the technique. After Xianxia explained to them, she felt even more lucky. It's so good. The meeting hall became quiet again. After a while, the great elder said, Does everyone understand? Everyone nodded. What is there that they don't understand now? In fact, when Xianxia was absorbed by the soul-controlling power, they knew that even if they opened the box, they would not be able to accept the inheritance of the technique. They did not have that much soul-controlling power for the box to absorb. and Yan Xianglou seems to be very relaxed after absorbing so much soul-controlling power. She should still have soul-controlling power in her body, but she doesn't know how much. No matter how much it is, it cannot be compared with them. In addition, she has received the inheritance of the skill. Thinking that she awakened the talent of soul control just by watching the 13 elders use the power of soul control, and can still use it. She is still so strong. Now she is likely to be able to use advanced soul control. Now that she has mastered the technique, who among them would dare to risk fighting her? Girl Xianglou, when are you going to leave? After seeing the shocked expressions of everyone, the elder turned and looked at Xianglou and asked. Since Yan Xianglou said she didn't want to stay here any longer, she has now accepted the inheritance of the skills and should not stay in the Long family anymore. Leave today. Yan Xianglou didn't want to stay at Long's house longer. Since the matter had been resolved, it was better to leave immediately. The great elder nodded. You can leave any time you want. The spiritual energy here is many times richer than outside. If you want to stay and practice, you can come back and live in the courtyard prepared for you at any time. The elder was expressing his position, saying that the Long family welcomes her to come back at any time. Yan Xianglou shook her head decisively. I left today and will not come back. I have to go to practice. No matter how strong the spiritual energy is, it will be too slow to advance behind closed doors. I want to go to the higher continent as soon as possible. The elder was not surprised by her decision when he heard this. Instead, he was very concerned about what she said. Should the children in the clan who have not reached the hairpin level go out to experience, like Moran, why not go to the higher continent? Thinking of Long Moran, I still felt very guilty. After a moment of hesitation, I said, when I see your mother, say sorry for us. Yan Xianglou was a little surprised that the elder actually asked her to apologize to her mother. Regardless of the previous grievances between her mother and them, this apology should be what her mother wanted to hear. I will bring you the words, but I don't forgive me for not being able to make the decision, Yu Xianglou said. Understood, just bring us our apology at this time. The great elder was like a kind elder who had done something wrong. Xianglou bowed to everyone. Xianglou accepted the inheritance of the Long family's highest soul-controlling technique. Although this favor should be thanked to the ancestors of the Long family, Xianglou still has something to say. Everyone looked at her, wondering what she wanted to say. Yan Xianglou continued, the authorities are confused, and what they are talking about is the current state of the Long family. In my opinion, the skills passed down by the Long family from generation to generation are already amazing. As long as the Long family concentrates on practicing, this unique soul-controlling skill can be achieved. The combination of law and high cultivation level will definitely make the Long family rise again. The rules are that the dead are alive. Some rules should be observed, but some rules that restrict the development of the family should be abolished. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 232. Chapter 232. I must say. After a pause, Yan Xianglou said bluntly, don't underestimate the people from the lower continent. The only difference between them and the people from the higher continent is that they were born in different places. But talent is not something that you were born in. Because you were born in the higher continent, it will be stronger. I don't believe it. There is no useless person in the higher continent, there is no person who cannot practice, and there is no person who can't improve his cultivation even if he puts in effort. What Yan Xianglou said was very straightforward. Everyone present could not understand it, and they were all shocked. Yu Xianglou actually wanted to break the rules of the 9 families. The situations of the 9 families are the same but still different, but in comparison, the situation of the Long family is pretty good. Although this box made the Long family feel dependent, this dependence gradually turned into the inner demons. Now that the box has been opened and the skills have been passed down and taken away by me, This is the best opportunity to break the inner demons of the Long family and change the fate of the Long family. Yan Xianglou didn't pay attention to their looks. If she didn't say these words now, she wouldn't say them in the future. But the Long family is her mother's family after all, so it wouldn't be a bad thing if things get better. Even if it was to repay the great elder's kindness in protecting her, it was more because of the apology he asked her to bring to her mother. Seeing everyone who was silent, Yan Xianglou pulled her words back. These are just my thoughts and opinions. I am young and have little experience. I may not think carefully, and it is up to you whether you listen or not, but I must say it. Ran Xianglou saluted again, got up, and walked out. The great elder was also shocked by what Yan Xianglou said. He had previously praised Yan Xianglou for his transparency, but now he understood what true transparency was. He glanced at the people who were still in a daze, sighed and said, "Let the whole clan come out to the door to see Xianglou girl off." The head of the Long family reacted. Although he felt that there was no need to send Xianglou away with such a loud noise, he did not refute because he knew that every decision made by the elder was for the good of the Long family. He passed the news to Xuanhuan when Yan Xianglou came out of the meeting hall. "Master, the concubine is out." Xuanhuan stood up after hearing the words, put down his teacup, and walked towards the courtyard door to greet him. As soon as he opened the courtyard door, he saw a woman in a red dress coming towards her. She had a beautiful face and a free and easy aura. He didn't leave her for a while, but why did he feel that the aura on her body had changed a lot from before? Even if there were changes, every move she made him feel happy, as if each step was not on the ground, but on his heart. I don't know when it started, but whenever I saw her, I felt inexplicably better. Yan Xianglou smiled brightly when she saw Xuanhuan. "Let's leave." "Okay," Xuanhuan responded with a smile. Yan Xianglou saw his smile and blurted out, "You look better when you smile." Really, Xuanhuan was stunned, and the smile on his face became wider. In fact, he really wanted to ask, "Since it looks good, do you like it?" but he didn't dare to ask. Because there was such obsession and love in Yan Xianglou's eyes when she said these words, she was simply praising him for his good looks. However, Xuanhuan was not discouraged at all. At least she felt that her face was very good looking. This was a good start. The two of them walked side by side towards the gate of Long's house. Yan Xianglou found that the door of Long's house was wide open. When she walked to the door, she realized that there were many people outside. She glanced at the head of the Long family and the first elder standing outside the gate with confusion. The meaning was obvious. "What are you doing?" The great elder said, "Xianglou will probably not come back after leaving. I asked the Long family to see you off and get to know you. If anyone can meet you in the higher continent in the future, they must at least know you as one of their own people." Ruan Xianglou was speechless. Is this necessary? Let alone how many of these people can go to the higher continent. Even if they can go, it is not certain when they can go. She is not familiar with them. Even if they meet her after going, there will be no guarantee. What relationship? However, she only thought about these thoughts in her heart and did not say them out. Instead, she looked at the Long family one by one very seriously. She didn't care whether she could remember them or not. The great elder looked at Xuanhuan and said, "From now on, Xianglou will be entrusted to Mr. Ji." Xuanhuan nodded and saluted the great elder. "Don't worry, I will take good care of Xianglou." Xuanhuan thanked the great elder for protecting Xianglou. The great elder was shocked after hearing what Xuanhuan said. How did Xuanhuan know that he was protecting the Dharma for Yuan Xianglou? Since Yuan Xianglou left the meeting hall, his consciousness has been following her, not to monitor her, but to see if she really has no nostalgia for the Long family at all. Therefore, he knows very well that Yuan Xianglou does not tell Xuanhuan what happened in the meeting hall. It was then that he realized that this boy he didn't care about had a strength that frightened him, And this strength was not cultivation. The head of the Long family was also shocked when he heard what he said. He remembered what Xuanhuan said when he went to invite Yan Xiangluo before. Only then did he realize that Xuanhuan was not arrogant, but that he could really do it. No wonder the Su family is so afraid of him. "You're welcome from my family." The elder had lived for decades and had experienced great storms. Although he was shocked in his heart, it didn't show on the outside at all. Xuanhuan said nothing and left the Long family side by side with Yan Xiangluo. He said this just to cut off future troubles and prevent some greedy and short-sighted people from having any plans against them. He was not afraid of their actions or trouble, he just wanted to accompany Yu Xiangluo quietly. When Yan Xiangluo saw her grandparents in the crowd, she nodded to them before leaving. Just one action made the two old men's eyes blurred with tears. "Ranner's child really looks like her," the couple said almost in unison. After looking at each other, they happily watched Yan Xiangluo leave as she rose into the air. Others didn't see the look of Ruan Xiangluo, but the elder saw it clearly and sighed in his heart. He was obviously a caring and righteous child, but he forced himself to be cold-hearted and unfeeling. This child can be so forbearing at such a young age. The future achievements will not be low. No wonder the cold and ruthless grandson of the Su family fell in love with her. It wasn't until Yan Xiangluo and Xuanhuan disappeared completely that the elder told everyone in the Long family what had happened. At the same time, he also said that the family rules would be changed and he would discuss them with the head of the family before announcing them. The Long family members were all shocked. Although some well-informed people had already gotten the news from the elders, they still felt very complicated after hearing what the elder said. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 233. Chapter 233. The contrast is too big. To be honest, their superiority in nature made them look down upon Yan Xiangluo, a person with only half of the Long family bloodline, and they did not think that she could open the box at all. I even felt that the head of the family and the elders who mobilized so much to get Yan Xiangluo back and try to open the box were simply unnecessary. Now this person they looked down on not only opened the box, but also accepted the inheritance of the technique. As long as she can grow up, her future achievements in soul control will surely be higher than those of the family ancestor who obtained the soul control technique. This is a level that they will never reach in their entire lives. The disdain for her before was like a slap in their face. Made them feel a little embarrassed. Previously, they didn't understand why the head of the family and the great elder asked Yan Xiangluo to take away the soul controlling technique. But now, after the great elder's explanation, they all understood. Although some people still feel angry and feel that the technique belongs to the Long family and should not be taken away by Yan Xiangluo, they also know that there is no way to take back this kind of inheritance. The elder did not hide anything and told everyone what Yan Xiangluo said before leaving, word for word. The elder also has selfish motives. He wants to take this opportunity to get rid of the inner demons buried in the hearts of the Long family. Although he is very clear that people have different levels of realm and different qualifications. It is impossible for everyone to get rid of their inner demons at once, let alone change everyone at once. However, no matter how many people can take this opportunity to get rid of their inner demons and change their state of mind, it will be a good thing for the Long family. Changing the Long family is not something that happens in a day, 2 days, a month, or 2 months, but a long process that requires at least the efforts and persistence of 1 or 2 generations. Yan Xiangluo forgot about the Long family's affairs as soon as he left. He crossed the hilltop and looked at the Su family not far ahead. Yan Xiangluo asked Xuanhuan, "Are you leaving or going back to the Su family?" Xuanhuan shook his head, I told the Su family before going to the Long family that we will leave here directly after leaving the Long family and will not come back again. Yan Xianglou glanced at him and sighed silently in her heart. Ji Zhikong's fate was so similar to her own. However, I seem to have better luck than him, at least my parents are still alive. Ji Zhihong's mother died after giving birth to him, and his father was the emperor of the Tianxia Empire. Although he doted on him, he only enjoyed his father's love for 6 years. It would be difficult to imagine his life after his parents left when he was 10 years old, and even more what's more, he was only 6 years old at the time and had to face the dangers of the world. Thinking of this, Yan Xianglou suddenly realized that Ji Zhihong was actually nothing like a member of the Tianxia imperial family. Although the imperial power of the Tianxia Empire was in his hands, she always felt that he was incompatible with the Tianxia imperial family. Withdrawing his thoughts of random moves, Yukong headed outside the residence of the 9 families. Although the two of them did not see anyone from other families, their spiritual consciousness was very strong, and they could sense that strong men from each family were emitting their spiritual consciousness to investigate them. The two of them directly left the residence of the 9 families and entered Wanghai Forest again. I want to practice fighting the monsters here again, and run away while fighting. What about you? Yan Xianglou glanced at her and said to Ji Zhihong as soon as she came out, the monsters chasing after her eagerly. Ji Zhihong glanced at the trembling and obedient monsters. A dark light flashed across his phoenix eyes. This girl was going to demolish the bridge when she crossed the river. She didn't want to go with him, and he wouldn't let her go. She got her wish. Your current cultivation level will not be as effective as before when fighting them, but it is better than nothing. You can fight them for 2 more days. After 2 days, I will take you to a place where the aura is just right for you. Now Ji Zhihong talked to her via voice mode. Yan Xianglou was stunned. Since Ji Zhihong used sound transmission, he must be guarding against people from the 9 families, so the place he said he wanted to take him to should be related to the 9 families. Does the 9 families have any secret training places? Ji Zhihong didn't wait for her to answer, so he didn't need to send a message to answer what she just asked. I'm fine. I'll practice with you and go out together. Yan Xianglou naturally understood that Ji Zhihong's words were meant for those who were secretly observing them with their spiritual senses. Thinking that there is no better place for him to practice now, the place Ji Zhihong is interested in must not be an ordinary place. As for whether she has anything to do with the 9 families, it doesn't matter to her. This world is a world where the strong are respected. Whoever has strength will get more, which is more obvious in practice. Even within the family, there is overt and covert competition for training resources, and all blood and family ties come first. She also sent a message to Ji Zhihong and said, "Okay, I'll do as you say." After dealing with the affairs of the Long family, she had only one purpose left, which was to seize the time to practice and leave as soon as possible to find her parents in the higher continent. There are not many places suitable for cultivation in the lower continent except for the major sects, so the place Ji Zhihong chose will definitely be good. She would repay the favor she owed him with her medical skills, and she could accept Ji Zhihong's overtures with peace of mind. Since I have to go in 2 days, I can't waste these 2 days. I looked at the waiting monsters and picked out a few monsters, and arranged my time for today and tomorrow. Ji Zhihong watched her fight with the monster quietly from the sidelines. Only then did he realize that the little girl was cruel. At night, the two found a tree and planned to rest on it for the night. Although the monsters in Wanghai Forest now pose no danger to her, Yan Xianglou, who is used to not letting down her guard under any circumstances, still called Zhetian out. Before she went to Long's house, she placed both the sky and the clouds in the Pangu space. As soon as Jishan came out, it automatically turned into a vine hairpin and inserted it into her bun. Ji Zhihong glanced at Jishan without saying anything. He leaned against the tree and closed his eyes. He was not sleeping and resting, but practicing. Yan Xianglue was actually resting. After all, she was still very tired after fighting monsters for a day. However, even though she was sleeping, Shan Tian was still absorbing spiritual power on her own, which surprised Ji Zhong. His spiritual perception was correct. Yan Xianglue was indeed asleep, and she slept deeply. But there were still spiritual energy fluctuations around her, indicating that she was still absorbing spiritual energy. How did she manage to practice while sleeping? Ji Zhong has for the first time envied other people's cultivation methods since he was a child. Ji Zhong, who had more contact with Yan Xianglue, found that she seemed to have endless secrets in her body. I feel more and more that my road to chasing a wife is getting more and more difficult. He once felt that no woman in the entire Tianqian continent could stand shoulder to shoulder with him because of his excellence. Now he was doubting whether he was qualified to stand beside her. The contrast in his heart was so great that it made him doubt his life. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 234. Chapter 234 Ul Red Line. At this time, Ji Zhong understood why she was so determined and unwilling to give up when she proposed to break off the engagement. He was really not in her eyes. It was hard for her to bear the title of her fiancé for 3 years. How could she endure it? The whole night was spent in Ji Zhong's mood of serious self-doubt. And Yan Xianglue seemed to have forgotten that she had inherited the soul-controlling technique and had no intention of practicing it at all. Ji Zhong can guarantee that if any of the Long family members were to inherit the soul control technique, they would start practicing immediately and not wait for a while. But naturally he would not ask her about the soul control technique. He knew very well that practicing the technique was the greatest privacy for anyone. Their relationship is not so good that they can talk about everything and have no secrets. Especially when he had doubted himself all night last night, he would not ask. Early in the morning, the two simply ate something and continued walking outside. In another place, where the monster that had been arranged yesterday was already waiting, Yan Xianglue started another day of fighting. Ji Zhong felt quite sad when he saw her fighting the monsters, because in his eyes, these monsters were just monster pills with different attributes. When he used to fight these monsters, he almost killed them. At that time, he collected a lot of demon pills. Demon pills are where monsters store their power. Although monks cannot use this power, spiritual beasts can use it. Spirit beasts have a way to purify and absorb the power in the demon pill. That's why those monsters trembled when they saw him yesterday. If it weren't for the attraction of Yan Xianglue's elixir, no monsters would come to trade with Yan Xianglue as long as he was around. However, the monster didn't feel the murderous intention from him, and it became bolder. At least it didn't tremble all over after seeing him today. It was like this for 2 consecutive days. The two of them walked out and fought with the monsters. The power of their consciousness that had been watching them was withdrawn one by one, and the ones left behind were not so closely watched. After the two woke up on the 3rd morning, they looked at each other and secretly found out that they still had 2 spiritual powers. Ji Zhong blinked and sent a message to her, "It seems they won't be relieved if we don't leave Wanghai Forest. Let's leave first to reassure them, and then we'll come back." Yan Xianglue also understood that these 2 spiritual consciousnesses should belong to the Su family and the Long family. That's all. Ji Zhong was not surprised that the Su family and the Long family were so cautious. After the two of them had eaten, Ji Zhong said to Yan Xianglue, "There's something going on in the court, let's go back first, and I'll accompany you to practice after it's over." Okay. Yan Xianglue sounded like she didn't really want to leave, but she had to go because she had something to do. Ji Zhong pulled her out quickly, coaxing others as he walked, "There are many opportunities for experience. Don't worry, I will wait for you to ascend and leave together." She rejected all the monsters that came to see Yan Xianglue, telling them that they would come to fight with them if they had the chance in the future. Hearing this, the monsters stopped disturbing them. The two of them were moving very fast. In one day, they were already far away from the residences of the 9 families. At night, when the two of them were looking for a place to practice, they finally no longer felt any spiritual consciousness following them. "Is it okay?" Xianxia asked cautiously through voice transmission. Xuanhuan was a little amused by her caution, but he also knew that Xianxia's ability to survive safely at the age of 10 had a lot to do with her caution. Remembering when she came out of the royal training ground, if she had not left Tianshun Imperial City immediately and cautiously, I am afraid she would not have achieved what she has achieved today. "Let's rest first and we'll go there later." Xuanhuan also sent a message to her. Xianxialuo nodded clearly. He could only go to a place in the middle of the night, so he had to avoid people. This place must be related to the 9 families. Her almond eyes lit up. Could it be the place where Xuanhuan took her to see, the place where 9 families practiced in shifts? But if you go there at night, it's the same. It's just a room with practitioners inside and outside. What's the difference between going there during the day and at night? Isn't it somewhere? Since she couldn't figure it out, Xianxialuo didn't embarrass herself. After eating something, she told Xuanhuan that the time was up and she went to sleep peacefully. Xuanhuan was very happy that Xianxialuo trusted him. Xianxialuo didn't realize that she had an inexplicable trust in Xuanhuan. At midnight, Xuanhuan woke up Xianxialuo on time. The moment Xianxialuo opened her eyes, she became clear. He glanced at the sky and said, "Go now." Xuanhuan nodded and jumped down from the tree first. Xianxialuo followed him and jumped down from the tree. "Where are we going?" Xianxialuo straightened her clothes and asked. "The residence of 9 families." Xuanhuan took out 2 flat pieces of jade while speaking. Xianxialuo's eyes lit up. "Are you going to the place you took me to see?" Xuanhuan nodded and handed her a piece of jade. "Yes, this is the hidden mysterious pattern." "Is it carved with patterns?" Xianxialuo is also a pattern engraver, and as soon as Xuanhuan took it out, he could sense the aura of mysterious patterns on it. Xuanhuan knew that Xianxialuo's tattoo talent was not low, but no matter how low it was, her training time was short and she would not be as high as him. Therefore, she directly used her own hidden mysterious patterns for the two of them. "Are you going to use it now, or will you use it later?" Xianxialuo examined the carving technique in her hand to hide the mysterious patterns. "Use it now, otherwise we will be discovered before we arrive." Xuanhuan took out another red ribbon, tied it around his own wrist, and tied the other end to Xianxialuo's wrist. While tying the knot, he explained, "We can't see each other after hiding, and we can't use our spiritual sense to detect. It's best not to even use sound transmission, so as to prevent us from finding each other." Xianxialuo looked at the red silk that tied their wrists and blurted out, "Why does it look like the red thread of Yu Lao?" As soon as the words came out, I felt something was wrong, so I quickly said, "It doesn't look like it, not at all." At first, she was very happy to hear her say that the red thread girl looked like Yu Lao, but before she could raise the corners of her mouth, she heard what she said next, and the raised corners of her mouth suddenly turned into twitching. Wisely, he didn't answer her words and pretended he didn't hear her. "Use the hidden mysterious pattern." Xianxialuo was a little embarrassed at first, but when she saw that Xuanhuan had no reaction, she quickly input her spiritual power into the hidden mysterious pattern, and her figure disappeared immediately, and the embarrassment also disappeared. Xuanhuan also used the hidden mysterious pattern after she used it. Their figures were hidden, and not only that, but their auras were also hidden. Xianxialuo exclaimed, "You are so powerful. The level of Xuanhuan is much higher than mine. I have been learning Xuanhuan carving since I was 5 years old. If you study for a short time, you will be able to carve higher level Xuanhuan in the future," Xuanhuan explained. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 235. Chapter 235 is here. Well, I will definitely be able to carve high-level mysterious patterns in the future. Yan Xianglou said without humility that although the level of the mysterious patterns she had now carved was not low, but with Ji Zhong's comparison, she suddenly felt that the level of her tattoos was not good enough. Ji Zhong held her hand along the red silk. I'll take you there and teleport it so it's quick and hard to be discovered. Yan Xianglou stopped struggling and said, okay. Ji Zhong's cultivation level is higher than hers, and even the eldest elder of the Su family is no match for him. It is indeed much safer for him to take her there than for her to use her spiritual power. Ji Zhong sensed her movements and raised the corners of his lower lips. Little girl, I won't admit defeat because of my selfishness. Yan Xianglou murmured in her heart, since she was holding her hand, why bother to tie it with red silk? But I just thought about it in my mind and didn't ask. Ji Zhong didn't give her time to ask, and directly took out a teleportation mysterious pattern and used it. Yan Xianglou felt that she was being hugged by Ji Zhong, and before she could scream, she swayed, and the two of them appeared not far outside the house where 9 family members were practicing in shifts. Ji Zhong let go of the hand holding her, making her feel embarrassed to say anything she wanted to say. They just brought her to teleport here, so what else can be said? Looking at the house, it was midnight. There were many people sitting outside, but there was a way out of the door. She felt a tug on the other end of the red silk, and knew it was Ji Zhong gesturing for her to follow. Yan Xianglou quickly gathered herself and followed. Ji Zhong's heart was actually not calm at all. The brief hug just now made him clearly aware of the girl's weak body, which made him unwilling to let go, but his reason told him that he must let go quickly, otherwise he would definitely anger her. Yan Xianglou had already forgotten everything that happened just now, because she felt that there was a soul around her, and she was very familiar with it. She immediately activated her soul control power and saw the sneaky Uge wandering outside the house. She wanted to go in, but it seemed like something was blocking her and she couldn't get in. Is there any restrictions on this house? Restrict souls from entering? At this time, they had already reached the door. Because their bodies and aura were hidden, Uge's soul did not notice them. But for some unknown reason, Uge's soul suddenly ran away and quickly disappeared into the night. Although Yan Xianglou was curious, she didn't have time to catch up and see what was going on, so she looked into the house. Before, they were just sitting on the mountain in the distance and looking here. She only heard what Ji Zhong said about the scene inside, but now she saw it for real. The appearance of the house is indeed like a temple, but it is indeed not big inside. There is indeed a well in the middle. It can be felt that there is a strong aura radiating out, but the richness of the aura can be felt inside and outside the house. The difference is very big. She felt comfortable both physically and mentally as she stood at the door. Every hair on her body was working hard to absorb the spiritual energy. The nascent soul in her dantian had already stood up and danced, and the flowers above her head were spinning faster and faster. This all showed that the spiritual energy here was not generally rich and pure. After all, her nascent soul is very picky, it's not the aura she likes, and she won't get up and dance. There is nothing in the house except the well that is emitting spiritual energy. Yan Xianglou glanced outside the door. Except for the people sitting cross-legged on both sides of the passage outside the door, she looked at the people who were sitting next to each other cultivating without any gaps. She finally understood why the Su family and the Long family has been negotiating for so long to fight for the right to use this place. It's hard not to be tempted by such a rich aura. But there are so many people now and they don't even have a place to stay. How can they get in? Did Ji Zhong bring her here and let her practice outside the door? Although a lot of spiritual energy can be absorbed here, it is difficult not to be discovered by these people with the speed and amount of spiritual energy she absorbs. Now she has been trying her best to suppress the speed of the nascent soul absorbing spiritual energy in her dantian, but the nascent soul is obviously not happy, and even the flower above her head is protesting. But she couldn't see Jizhong's expression now, and she didn't dare to send a message. She didn't know what he meant and could only wait. In a moment, the people inside the room stood up, and the people outside the room also stood up. Jizhong pulled her aside. Yan Xiangluo saw the people coming out of the house and snuggled up next to Jizhong deftly, trying not to let the people coming out of the house touch her or the people outside. Just as the last person in the room came out, Jizhong pulled her in quickly. "Jump down." Jizhong's voice came to Yan Xiangluo's consciousness, and at the same time, the red silk on her wrist was untied. Yan Xiangluo didn't have time to think too much, because people outside had already started to come in. The room was not big, so if she didn't jump down quickly, she would soon run into the people coming in. She jumped without thinking. She knew that Jizhong should have already jumped. As soon as she jumped down, she felt that her body was wrapped in a rich spiritual energy. This was the first time she encountered such a rich spiritual energy. If she encountered such a strong aura when Panga flower bloomed in the second level, would she be able to pass the second level earlier? Her thoughts only flew away for a moment and then came back because she fell into the water. Although she was curious about why there was no sound when she fell into the water, what made her even more curious was what kind of water it was and how it felt like a spiritual spring. After a fight, the aura below became more intense. It just has less vitality than Ling Quan. Floating up from the water, she finally understood why there was no loud noise when she fell into the water. The water might be because the spiritual energy was too strong, and it felt a bit thick. It reminded her of a milk bath in another life, and it felt thicker than the milk in the milk bath. "Don't be in a hurry to practice, come with me." Jizhong took advantage of the movement of the water waves to accurately catch her, then held her hand and swam in one direction. It was pitch black below, and even if her night vision was good, Yan Xiangluo couldn't see anything. However, her consciousness was not restricted, and she could sense that the space below was long and narrow, which should be the direction of the water flow they were in. He didn't object to being held by Jizhong's hand and swam along with his strength. The two swam for a quarter of an hour before Jizhong spoke this time. "This is it." After saying this, he pulled her ashore. At the same time, the hidden mysterious patterns on their bodies were lifted, and they could finally see each other. Yan Xiangluo felt that the dress on her body was clinging to her body because it was wet, so she quickly used her spiritual power to dry the dress. Jizhong could actually be seen, but after just one glance, he turned around, dried his own clothes, and pretended not to see her. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 236. Chapter 236, Underground Spirit River. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of Yan Xiangluo cleaning herself up, and then Jizhong took out a fist-sized bead and illuminated the place where they were. There was finally light where they were, and Yan Xiangluo could see the surroundings clearly, especially the underground river they had just swam across. It actually looks like milk, milky white. "What's going on with the water?" Yan Xiangluo asked in surprise. The 9 families call this river the Ling River. The spiritual energy of the residences of the 9 families and the spiritual energy of Hope Sea Forest all emanate from this river and overflow through the wellhead, Jizhong explained. Yan Xiangluo looked at the underground Linghe River, which was not very wide, and asked puzzledly, "It's so spacious down there and the place is so big. Why don't people from the 9 families come down there to practice?" Jizhong raised the corner of his mouth mockingly. "They thought about it, but it's a pity that they can't come down." Yan Xiangluo was stunned for a moment, then understood. "Is it because of blood?" "Yes, only people like us can come down here." The 9 families were demoted and punished. Naturally, the rules of heaven will not allow them to return to the higher continent easily. Therefore, they are given some resources to compete with the lower mainlanders. The difference limits their cultivation speed. Yan Xianglego understood what Jizhozhong meant. The aura of this river is so rich. If people from the 9 families can come down to practice, even if they need to break through to the emperor level to return to the higher continent, it will not take too long. However, they are restricted from coming down to practice, and they can only rely on the spiritual energy overflowing from the spiritual river to practice. The time and speed of practice will be limited. The existence of this river not only made them determined to stay in the place of punishment, but also made them just a little bit short of hope. In this way, most people were hung up in the place of residence. After all, there is no place with such rich spiritual energy outside. You can practice. Yu Xianglego feels that the evil spirit of heaven is really good at taking advantage of people's mentality. Since they couldn't come down, how did they find out there was a river below? Yan Xianglego asked like a curious baby. People like us came back to the clan and practiced here at the well. They had conflicts with the family members and fell off during the fight, Jizhozhong said. This is not a secret among the 9 families. If Yan Xianglego had stayed longer, she would have known. Yan Xianglego sighed, but it was not surprising that he discovered the underground river below for this reason. In this case, why are the 9 families still so obsessed with blood? Yan Xianglego couldn't figure it out. Since we already knew that people who left here could come down to practice with children born in mainland China, why should we restrict marriages between people from outside? Who knows? Jizhozhong did not answer her question. Actually, he understood it very well, but he didn't want Yan Xianglego to be exposed to the dirty thoughts of the 9 families anymore. There are such people everywhere, and 8 of the families are still in the high continent. Their conduct is so bad that the entire branch has been demoted and punished, and the filth inside is even worse. Yu Xianglego understood more or less and didn't ask any more questions. Have you often come here to practice before? Yan Xianglego asked. From the first time she met Jizhozhong, she had never noticed his cultivation level. Even if his fetal poison is not resolved, it will not be visible. Yan Xianglego had always felt that Jizhozhong's cultivation talent was too strong. Now that she knew about such a place, she felt deeply that with talent and luck, Jizhozhong would not be able to live up to the favor of heaven even if his cultivation was not high. People like us are not allowed to get close here. When I was 13 years old, I suffered from repeated attacks of fetal poisoning several times. The bottleneck period was too long, so I took the risk to come in this way. After I succeeded, every time I came to practice I will come here to practice for a while during the bottleneck period, and the effect is excellent. Yan Xiang understood clearly. Through the behavior of the Long family, she could also imagine how the Su family treated Jizhozhong before. Otherwise, how could Jizhozhong endure Qin Sui's troubles all the time? It was not good to cause others sadness, so Yan Xianglego decisively shut up and did not continue the topic. You can practice here. Jizhozhong pointed to a flat stone beside him. Looking at the stone that Jizhozhong pointed at, it should be the place where he always comes to practice. It doesn't need to be said by Jizhozhong that Yan Xianglego also knows the benefits of practicing here, but she is a little worried about the speed and amount of spiritual energy she can absorb. Seeing her hesitant frown, Jizhozhong asked, "What's wrong? Don't you like it here?" If he feels that the environment is not good, he can decorate it without any trouble. Girls are more delicate, which is normal in his opinion. Comparatively, Yan Xianglego is more self-reliant than the so-called noble ladies in the imperial city of Tianshan Empire. They are the real squeamish ones. Yan Xianglego shook her head and said in a somewhat uneasy tone, "How could I not like such a good place to practice? I'm worried that the speed and amount of spiritual energy I absorb are a bit scary. Once I start practicing, it will be easy for me to enter the realm, and I won't be able to control the speed of absorbing spiritual energy. If all the spiritual energy here is absorbed, will it cause big trouble? Yan Xiangluo has no idea about the nascent soul and pangu flower in her danshan. After all, every time she encounters a place with strong spiritual energy, she almost absorbs all the spiritual energy inside. Just like the previous 5-color spiritual lake, this is not Wanghai Forest. This is the residence of 9 families. If the spiritual energy of this underground spiritual river is sucked away by her, they will probably have to pay a lot of money if they want to leave here alive. Cost. Ji Zhong was stunned. Can you absorb all the spiritual energy here? If she really has the ability to absorb spiritual energy like this, can she directly reach the peak of the 9th level and be able to ascend and leave here? Ji Zhong took great pains to bring her here, mainly because he wanted her to improve her cultivation as soon as possible. He himself reached the cultivation level to leave here a few years ago. If it weren't for the fact that the fetal poison had not been cured, and the spiritual spring and 9-leaf clover were his hope for curing the poison, he would not have stayed until now. Later, after contacting Yan Xiangluo, she helped him detoxify. His heart fell on her and he was reluctant to leave because he knew very well that if he left, he would not be seen again even if they met in the higher continent. And can win her heart. Accompanying her through the most important stage in her life is the opportunity that touches her heart the most. Ji Zhong, who is good at strategizing, will inevitably be emotionally moved as well. Now that he knows that Yan Xiangluo has such a strong ability to absorb spiritual energy, Ji Zhong's heart beats wildly, which means that he doesn't have to wait long before he can leave Tianqian continent with her. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 237. Chapter 237 Uge was taken prisoner. Yan Xiangluo didn't know what he was thinking. Seeing Ji Zhong's reaction, she thought he was worried about absorbing all his spiritual energy. Why don't you help me keep an eye on it? If something goes wrong, interrupt my practice. Yan Xiangluo thought about it for a while. She didn't want to give up such a good opportunity to practice. She had already come. She really couldn't leave it like this. Although it is not a good thing to be interrupted during cultivation, it is simply impossible to find a place with such rich spiritual energy in the continent of heavenly punishment. Ji Zhong came to his senses and realized that she had misunderstood, so he quickly said, "Don't worry about absorbing the spiritual energy. It doesn't matter even if you absorb it all. I guess you will be at the cultivation level to leave after you have absorbed it, and we can go to the higher continent. Are you afraid of causing trouble?" After hearing Ji Zhong's words, Yan Xiangluo breathed a sigh of relief. "I'm just worried that things may not necessarily happen. After all, the aura here is so rich and there is so much, even if I want to absorb it all, I may not be able to do it. The aura of 5-color Spirit Lake is not as much as here. She has not absorbed it completely. Although it is almost finished, there is still a little left. The spiritual energy here is so strong, there will probably be more left." Ji Zhong smiled. "Then what are you worried about? Hurry up and practice." He is not worried at all that if she absorbs all the spiritual energy here, the world will not remain the same and will always need to change, whether it is the 9 families or the situation on the outside continent. Yan Xiangluo nodded, sat on the stone Ji Zhong mentioned in a very good mood, and began to absorb the spiritual energy. As soon as she released her deliberate suppression, the nascent soul and pangu flower in her danshan suddenly spun faster. Ji Zhong instantly felt that the spiritual energy around him was rushing toward Yan Xiangluo crazily. In the blink of an eye, Yan Xiangluo turned into a milky white person, as if he was wrapped in the water of the Ling River. Not only that, a whirlpool formed in the center of the Linghe River facing Yuan Xiangluo, and the milky white spiritual energy fell from the river to Yuan Xiangluo like an arched bridge. It looked weird no matter how he looked at it. Ji Zhong was extremely shocked. He just heard Yan Xianglou say that the speed and amount of spiritual energy she absorbed were scary. Even though he was mentally prepared, he didn't expect what he saw in front of him. It was indeed scary, even he was startled. He has come here to practice several times, and the amount he absorbs every time is scary, but it has never been so crazy. Yes, Xuanhuan felt that the current scene could only be described as crazy. Before, he really didn't think that Yan Xianglou could absorb all the spiritual energy in the Linghe River, but now he actually thinks that it is really possible. Even so, Xuanhuan never thought of stopping Yan Xianglou, and sat quietly cross-legged aside. However, he did not absorb spiritual energy to practice, but was in the state of meditation. Although he is now at the peak of the 9th level of Zun level and can ascend and leave the heavenly punishment continent at any time, his cultivation here cannot be improved, but his realm can be improved. This will only be beneficial to him in the future when he goes to a higher continent to practice. As far as his experience is concerned, going out and practicing can no longer improve his realm. In recent years, he has been improving his realm through meditation. Although it is slower, it still has some effects. It is difficult to improve a person's realm. Just like this, one of the two is desperately absorbing spiritual energy, and the other is in the state of meditation. Jishan, who was using the hairpin in Yang Xiangluo's bun, was extremely excited. The spiritual energy here was so strong, and being sucked in by the master so arrogantly, it was simply more enjoyable than practicing in the Pangu space. It also absorbed the spiritual energy, but it did not forget its responsibility to protect its master, leaving a vine behind to serve as a warning. Although there is only Xuanhuan here, it seems that this man is very good to his master, so he should be more careful. Don't be afraid of 10,000, just be afraid of the worst. The human race is too cunning. Over the years, Zhetian has seen too many human beings with ulterior motives in Wanghai Forest. Brothers and sisters can be framed and assassinated without mercy, not to mention that they have no blood relationship. Just like this, Yan Xianglou and Zhetian were absorbing spiritual energy below, while the people above were still practicing in shifts according to the rules. The soul of Uge that Yan Xianglou had seen before was now looking at the black mist in front of him with trembling eyes. I finally found a suitable soul body, did you run away? A gloomy voice came from the black mist. Uge's soul shook even harder. Since he was pulled out of his soul body by Yan Xianglou, Uge has been wandering around the residences of the 9 families in the past few days. He originally thought that his soul would go to the underworld after death, but he found that his soul could not leave here at all, not even Wanghai Forest, and could only wander around the residences of the 9 families. After that, he encountered this black mist, which seemed to be teasing him every day, and also seemed to be probing for something. It tormented his soul to the point where it was about to fall apart. Starting tonight, Heiwu stopped teasing him and actually wanted to take him away. Uge was so frightened that he had no choice but to go into the house where he used to practice and hide under the well. But his soul body was actually unable to enter that room, and that room was actually able to block the soul body from entering. At this time, he noticed the aura of black mist again and ran away quickly. That is when Yan Xianglou saw him running away suddenly, but he was still blocked by the black mist. Uge didn't know how to escape, so Heiwu impatiently took action. Follow me. You have a good life. You will have such great opportunities even after you die. Uge didn't have time to think about the meaning of Black Mist's words. He was horrified to realize that his soul could not move, and was immediately sucked into the black mist. In an instant, the black fog disappeared, and the night returned to calm, as if nothing had happened here. Time passed day by day, and Yan Xianglou had been absorbing spiritual energy from the underground Linghe River for 10 days. Xuanhuan would check on her status every day. Surprised to find that the spiritual energy that Yan Xianglou absorbed was enough to advance, but she did not advance and was still absorbing spiritual energy crazily. This was the first time he encountered this situation. Yanxiangluo is now at the 7th level of Zun level cultivation. He thought she would break through to the peak of Zun level 9th level while he was level 1 below. Now it seems that she is going to break through to the peak of the 9th level at once. This is fine, no matter how small the noise of multiple promotions is, it will attract the attention of the superiors. The color of the water in the Linghe River has become much lighter than the milky white 10 days ago, as if the milk has been diluted. Now it just feels like the river water is a little turbid. Sigh, Ji Zhong sighed silently in his heart. If this continues, the spiritual energy in the Linghe River will really be sucked out by her. This girl is indeed no ordinary person. No wonder her future father-in-law and mother-in-law feel free to leave her, who was only 10 years old at the time, alone. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 238. Chapter 238. No one is missing. At this time, the Meng family who were practicing around the well on the ground all felt that the spiritual energy was getting less and less these days. Today they actually felt that the spiritual energy inside was not as rich as the spiritual energy outside before. Some people went out to take a look and felt that the spiritual energy outside was the aura is getting weaker. People outside saw the people coming out and asked why the spiritual energy was getting less and less. At this time, people in each family's residence also felt the change in spiritual energy. At first, they didn't take it seriously, but now every family has discovered that something is wrong. There is too little spiritual energy. The heads of the 9 families all came to the house without making an appointment. Just at this time, the Meng family who were cultivating also came out and wanted to go back to report, so they met the heads of 9 families at once, which made it easier. What's going on? The head of the Su family was the first to ask. A few days ago, the Su family just came from the Long family to ask for 3 cultivation times. It's not yet their turn. Why has the spiritual energy here suddenly decreased? If this is the case, wouldn't the Su family suffer a big loss? The people practicing inside were members of the Meng family of the swordsmanship family. They all looked at the Meng family leader. At this time, the Meng family leader also knew that the matter could not be discussed in private, so he said, "Tell me, what's going on?" The Meng family heard the head of the family speak, and the young master of the Meng family replied, "We don't know what's going on. The spiritual energy has been gradually decreasing in the past few days, and it is especially obvious today. We are just about to go back and report." "Did anything happen during your cultivation?" asked the head of the Su family. The young master of the Meng family told the truth, "No, we have been practicing quietly inside according to the rules." At the beginning, the reduction of spiritual energy was not obvious. Only a few people felt it. In the past 2 days, almost everyone has clearly felt it. Now the aura inside is not as strong as the aura outside before. "Why didn't you report it earlier?" The head of the Su family was a little unhappy. The Meng family were speechless. How could they say that no one was willing to waste their cultivation time? "You all come out, let's go in and take a look." The head of the Meng family hurriedly rescued his family. At the same time, each family is asked to send someone to invite the elders of each family. Of course, the person invited must be the one who has the final say. This matter is definitely not a trivial matter. Their family head alone cannot make the decision. The situation of each family is similar. Although there are heads of families who manage family affairs, the person who really has the final say is the elder with the strongest cultivation. Each family head sent someone back to invite people, and the Meng family members who were cultivating inside also came out, and the 9 family heads immediately went in. The 9 people gathered around the well and looked down. They all let go of their spiritual consciousness to perceive each other. After a while, they looked at each other. The leader of the Meng family was the first to say, "Why is the spiritual energy missing so much?" The other 8 family heads all looked at the Meng family. The Su family leader asked in a bad tone, "Are you sure the Meng family didn't do anything small? Each family has some descendants who are the offspring of family members and outsiders, and there are also some talented ones among them, who are taken back and trained by each family. Such a person can go there, but due to bloodline discrimination, each family has regulations that do not allow such descendants to come here to practice or get close to each other. They cannot tolerate people of their bloodline whose cultivation talents exceed those of their own family." Now it is not just the Su family head who suspects that the Meng family has done something, several other family heads also have such suspicions. Because it happened that the Meng family had 3 such extremely talented descendants living in the Meng family. The head of the Meng family can be sure that he did not do this, but he cannot guarantee whether any of the descendants of the Meng family have privately accepted any bribes to let others go. Master Meng immediately looked at all the Meng family members who were practicing here and asked, "Have you let the 3 of them come into practice?" Everyone present immediately shook their heads. Young Master Meng took the initiative and said, "It's our Meng family's turn to practice. I have been here all the time, and the 3 of them have never been here, we can swear that." Others also echoed, "How can we let the 3 of them come here to practice, let alone go down?" The other 8 family heads also understood that each family was very repulsive to such descendants, and it was indeed unlikely that they would be allowed to practice. At this time, the elders from each family also arrived. Except for the second elder from the Su family, the elders from other families came. Moreover, the second elder of the Su family is now also at the 8th level of the clan level. They don't know when he made a breakthrough. Only the Su family knows that this is all thanks to Xuanhuan, which is one of the reasons why the Su family is even more afraid of Xuanhuan. It is possible for the second elder who has not broken through for a long time to break through to the 8th level of the clan. No one among the 9 families has been able to do it, otherwise there would not be only 4 people with this level of cultivation. However, while the Su family is afraid, they are also grateful to Xuanhuan. In this way, the Su family's status among the 9 families will not change after losing the eldest elder. The house is not big, and the space for 18 people standing inside is not very spacious. The Meng family practitioners all stood outside the door and watched. It was the first time in history that the heads of each family and the elders who had the final say gathered together, but no one was in the mood to look at them at this time. They were all waiting for the results of their investigation. The 9 elders are mainly 4 elders with 8th level sect cultivation. After investigation, they came to the conclusion that someone below is definitely absorbing spiritual energy. Everyone was stunned when they heard this conclusion. They all wanted to know who was absorbing the spiritual energy below. Each household owner reacted and immediately sent people to check if everyone in their house who could go out was there. For a time, the residences of the 9 families were in chaos, and other family members who heard the news also rushed over to watch outside. Almost all the 9 families gathered outside the house. Soon the people from each family who went back to check came back, and no one was missing. How come there is no one missing? Everyone thought of 2 people at once and looked at the Su family head and the Long family head. The hairs on the backs of the heads of the Su family and the Long family stood up, but it was definitely not the 2 of them. But let alone other people, even the 2 of them suspected that it was Xuanhuan and Yanxiangluo. But the 2 of them were still calm. The head of the Long family and the head of the Su family looked at each other and said, when they left, "Not only we sent people to keep an eye on them, but also your families should have sent people to keep an eye on them. Now we can only arrange for people to go see if they are still practicing in Wanghai Forest. If they are not there, Zhu Chuangzhen will ask people outside to check their whereabouts to find out if it is them." The Su family head and the Long family head did not shirk the blame, which made the other families feel comfortable. As for who should be sent to check whether they are there, the heads of the Su family and the Long family agreed that people should be sent from the other 7 families to check. This will also prevent them from thinking that the Su family and the Long family have any selfish motives. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 239. Chapter 239. Very surprised. Such a decision was in line with the wishes of the other 7 families, and soon each of the 7 families sent one person to investigate in Xuanhuan forest. However, they have been walking for more than 10 days. Even if they are walking while experiencing, they are still far away from the residence of the 9 families. The people sent to investigate were unlikely to come back soon, and they were worried that the aura here would decrease even more in the days after they returned. Some people suggested that people from each family who can go down should go down to have a look, but some selfish people objected, fearing that they would not come up if they went down, and would absorb the spiritual energy directly down there, which would make things worse. Everyone was silent. They were not very friendly to the children of various families, so they did not trust them. They were worried that they would not come up if they really went down. There is no better solution for the time being. We can only wait for the people who went to investigate to come back. But everyone knows in their hearts, what should they do if the people who went to investigate come back and are sure to be Xuanhuan and Yanxiangluo? None of them can go down, even if they know it is them. What can they do to them? And those who can go down are not as good as the 2 of them. Even if they are allowed to go down, they can't defeat Xuanhuan alone, let alone Yanxiangluo. There is no good way but to wait. In the next few days, the atmosphere of each family was not very good, because the spiritual energy had been reduced too much, and there was no longer much meaning in practicing by the well. The Meng family also withdrew first. Everyone is worried whether this spiritual well will be like this in the future. If so, what will they do? You must know that the reason why their cultivation level can improve so quickly is because they borrow the light of this spiritual well. Those who have not yet reached the age of hairpins and crowns can choose to leave the family and go out to look for opportunities. What about those who are adults and cannot go out to practice? The 9 families encountered their first unsolvable problem ever. The atmosphere in the Long family and the Su family is even more subdued. Not only are they worried that they don't have enough spiritual energy to practice, they are also worried that if they are really Xuanhuan and Yanxiangluo, how will their 2 families explain to the other 7 families? Together, their 2 families, he doesn't have that strength either. The head of the Long family asked the great elder, can the soul control technique solve it? The first elder of the Long family glanced at the head of the Long family. Do you think that Yanxiangluo, who has received the strongest inheritance of soul control power, can be controlled by my soul control power? The head of the Long family was speechless for a moment. Yanxiangluo didn't know what was happening above, and was still sinking into the realm, absorbing the spiritual energy. Xuanhuan could guess that the higher UPS had already discovered it. After all, the aura here was no longer that strong, and it must have been even worse up there, but he wasn't worried. He knows the hearts of the 9 families very well. He will never send anyone else who can come down to check. He will also send people to find the whereabouts of the 2 of them to confirm whether they are down there. He had already made preparations before coming. How could he let the little girl have trouble absorbing the spiritual energy? 6 days later, the people who went out to investigate came back and confirmed that Xuanhuan was still accompanying Yanxiangluo to practice in Xuanhuan forest. Changfeng and Jin Yutang were protecting him in the dark with their hidden guards. Everyone was surprised when they heard this result. The people who absorbed the spiritual energy in their hearts must be Xuanhuan and Yanxiangluo. Now that they knew it was not them, their doubts became even heavier. They have checked the people who can go down, and they are all here now. So who is the person down there who is absorbing spiritual energy? The Long family and the Su family secretly breathed a sigh of relief. As long as it wasn't them, neither the Long family nor the Su family could afford the consequences. They knew that Chang Feng and Jin Yutang were so nervous when they sent people to investigate. After all, Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhishong, who were still training, were the ones who had people use the changing pill according to their master's instructions. They also I wonder if Xixian's Yan changing pill can evade their detection. Seeing them all leave, I felt relieved, knowing that they didn't realize that these two people were fake. Is it possible that it's not a human being? The head of the Meng family raised his doubts. Since all the people who may be down there have been eliminated, there is only one possibility. It is impossible for the aura to disappear on its own. Everyone looked at him, and the head of the Meng family said awkwardly, "Who else do you think can do it? Or can the spiritual energy disappear on its own?" Everyone was silent again. At this time, the people guarding the well came back to report that the spiritual energy seemed to have stopped decreasing. Hearing the news, everyone jumped into the air and flew towards the house. The elders and heads of the 9 families rushed in, rushing to look into the well, and their spiritual senses searched down. After a while, everyone calmed down. The head of the Long family said, "The spiritual energy has indeed stopped decreasing." Although the spiritual energy has stopped decreasing, everyone's expressions are still not good. The current concentration of spiritual energy is not as strong as the spiritual energy in the mainland outside. And they are not sure whether the aura can be restored to its previous state. I don't know who absorbed so much spiritual energy. At this time, they all agreed that it must be some kind of powerful spiritual beast. Why are they so sure? Just because in their knowledge it is impossible for someone to absorb so much spiritual energy at one time, and the most important thing is that they have not yet advanced. If it is some powerful spiritual beast, it can be explained. There are many powerful spiritual beasts in Wanghai Forest, and their people don't dare to provoke them when they come in or out. At this time, Yan Xiangluo was still sitting cross-legged on the edge of the underground Ling River. He had stopped absorbing spiritual energy, but he still did not wake up from the state. Ji Zhishong narrowed his eyes. What's going on? After absorbing so much spiritual energy, the water in the Linghe River has become clear. Why hasn't she advanced yet? Since you didn't advance, why did you stop absorbing spiritual energy? But now that Yan Xiangluo is still in the realm and has not exited, he can't disturb her. No matter how anxious he is, he can only wait. Half a day passed, and Yan Xiangluo finally opened her eyes. Ji Zhishong quickly stood up and walked over, looked at her and asked, "What's going on? Why didn't you advance after absorbing so much spiritual energy?" Ji Zhishong could sense that there was enough spiritual energy in her body. The spiritual energy was about to explode. There was no reason why she should not advance. Yan Xiangluo stood up. "I suppressed the promotion, and we will find a place to advance after we leave here." After Yan Xiangluo absorbed the spiritual energy and reached a full state, Yuan Ying and Panguhua stopped absorbing them. It took her half a day to suppress them before they started to advance. Ji Zhishong understood. She was worried that the promotion movement here would be too big, which would arouse suspicion among the 9 families. In fact, he has already made preparations to isolate the mysterious pattern. Although it cannot completely isolate the movement caused by her promotion, it can also ensure that nothing can be detected above. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 240. Chapter 240 His Wish. But now that she had suppressed her spiritual power, he didn't say anything. It would indeed be more thoughtful to leave here and advance further. "How long can you suppress it?" Ji Zhishong asked. 4 hours, Yan Xiangluo said. Ji Zhu nodded and said, "Let's leave now." After Hualuo, he picked up the lighting beads and walked forward along the Linghe River. Yan Xiangluo looked in the direction. "Aren't we going to go out from the well?" Ji Zhishong explained, "All the strong men from the 9 families at the entrance of the well should be here now. I know another way to get out." Yan Xiangluo asked doubtfully, is there still a way in and out? You can't go in, you can only go out, Zhizhong said again. Yan Xiangluo was extremely curious. What kind of place could only be exited but not entered? In her understanding, where you could enter, you could naturally exit, and where you could exit, you could naturally enter. But in the world of fantasy, it is not uncommon for irrational things to happen. She stopped asking questions and hurriedly followed Zhizhong. After all, her whole body was filled with spiritual power. Although she could suppress it, it was uncomfortable. The sooner she could advance, the better. The 4 hours she mentioned was the longest time she could suppress it, and she wouldn't want to suppress it for that long if she could. Zhizhong knew that she must not feel well now, so he walked quickly. In about a quarter of an hour, the two of them stood in front of a wall. The reason why it is said to be a wall is because both sides of the entire Linghe River are covered with dark, wet stone walls. Only here is a wall made of building materials like blue bricks. Approximately 3 meters high and 5 meters wide, it appears abruptly in the stone wall and looks a bit out of place no matter how you look at it. Zhizhong reached out and held her hand. You can go out soon. Yan Xiangluo was so focused on the wall that she didn't notice Zhizhong holding her hand again. Or maybe she's somewhat used to it. How to get out? Yan Xiangluo didn't see any mechanism on the wall. Zhizhong raised his other hand and used his spiritual power to press on a few bricks with his index finger. Before she could react, Yan Xiangluo felt a suction force suddenly sucking their bodies together. When she hit the wall, she instinctively closed her eyes. But the expected collision did not happen at all. When he opened his eyes, he saw that they were already in Wanghai Forest. Then it actually leads to Wanghai Forest. Yan Xiangluo came to the place where the 9 families lived, and her original understanding was shattered. What I was thinking about was how unkind heaven was to seeing the 9 families. This was simply draining the fire power. She quickly turned around and looked behind her, wanting to see where she came out. Is it a cliffhanger? She was stunned as soon as she turned around. Behind her was the same trees and grass as in front, with endless trees and weeds. The cliff she thought did not exist at all. Where did they come from? At this moment, she understood why Zhizhong said that he could only go out but not in. There was no way to find the entrance and how to get in. It's amazing. Yan Xiangluo thought that they came out after Zhizhong pressed a few bricks on the wall, and understood that it should be a very advanced mechanism. At least it's not something people with their level of cultivation or lower level mainlanders can know. Zhizhong waved, and a bird smaller than a sparrow flew up and landed on Zhizhong's hand. Its feathers were dusty and inconspicuous at all. The most outstanding thing about it is its dripping eyes. Go tell Changfeng and the others that they can set off back to the Tianshan Empire, Zhizhong said to the little bird. The little bird nodded, flapped its wings and left. The fast Yan Xiangluo blinked and disappeared. Is it your spirit beast? Yan Xiangluo was surprised that Zhizhong's spirit beast was actually a bird that could not be seen without looking carefully, and it was too small. At least it was the first time in her 2 lives that she had seen such a small bird. Zhijudian nodded. Well, its name is Wuji. It is very fast and clever. I picked it up when I was 5 years old. At that time, it was seriously injured and was dying. I saved it and it took the initiative. Accept the Lord. Unfettered is the name I gave it. That is my wish. I hope that one day I can live without any fetters. Yan Xiangluo immediately understood that Zhizhong had deep feelings for the bird called Wuji. She had grown up with him since childhood. Such feelings cannot be replaced by other spiritual beasts. Unfettered, does he wish to live without any fetters? Your wish will definitely come true, Yan Xiangluo said solemnly. Although she also knew that it was impossible for people to live without any bonds in the world, having such a wish was not too much. Zhizhong's strength should have allowed him to leave here a long time ago. As soon as he leaves here, all ties to him will disappear. it is easier for him to realize this wish than others. How did she know that Zhizhong had found a bond for himself again, and it was an existence that could bond him for life? Well, it will be realized soon. Zhizhong smiled. Yan Xiangluo looked at his smile and felt inexplicably happy. Let's go, find a place for you to advance. Zhizhong took out another teleportation symbol, held her waist and disappeared. Yan Xiangluo, who was hugged by him again, was speechless. She wanted to say that she had teleportation patterns and teleportation discs, so there was no need for him to hug her around. She can find a place to advance by herself. But everyone has left, and when we look at the beautiful scenery in front of us, forget it, let's not talk about it. Why is she being pretentious when people have put so much effort into it for her? How is it here? Zhizhong naturally did not miss her changing expression, but as long as she was not angry, it would be fine. Excellent. Yan Xiangluo could not find such a suitable and comfortable place in a short period of time. Don't worry about advancing, I will protect you. Zhizhong stepped back 5 or 6 meters and stood still. Yan Xiangluo stopped being pretentious and didn't want to suppress anymore. She quickly sat cross-legged and started to advance. Perhaps it was because she had absorbed so much spiritual energy that she began to advance within a short time, and she quickly broke through to the 8th level. After being promoted to level 8, although the promotion did not stop, it did not break through to level 9 either. Zhizhong was not in a hurry or worried. It took him half a day to advance to the 9th level because of the fetal poison in his body. Yan Xiangluo is in the best condition now, and it will definitely not take that long. But if she directly breaks through to the peak of the 9th level, it will not take a short time. According to his estimation, the aura absorbed by Yan Xiangluo should be able to directly break through to the peak of the 9th level. So it's hard to say how long it took him to reach his peak state from the 9th level. It was still caused by fetal poisoning. However, now he is somewhat grateful that he was born with fetal poisoning. End of this chapter.